and don't forget to click that subscribe and bell icon to receive a notification each time I upload a new video. Hi everyone, it's Mike here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this is the second intro I've recorded for this video. The first intro that I did was basically all about what I was going to do, what kind of products I was going to be using, and what the aim or the hopeful outcome for the video was going to be. As I started filming the project and started doing the project, it kind of went from one thing to something totally different. Well, not totally different, but we just went in a different direction, and it didn't go as planned. So rather than let it be a complete failure, I kind of turned it round halfway through because I really wasn't happy with the way the project was going. So I ended up moving direction, changing the way that the project was going to go into something else. So was it a failure or was it a success? You decide. Oh, let me just pull my chair in a little bit. That's better, a bit closer to my desk. Okay, so this is a box. I've got two of them actually. Now these I got are just before Christmas, and inside they had some Argentinian king prawns. So you can imagine how big they were. They were absolutely huge. So the box itself is wooden, as you can see. It's stapled together, but I didn't use it right away because it smelt a bit seafoody, a bit fishy. So it's been soaking for a while and then left to dry for quite a while as well. So, but I think it's the perfect size to create a mixed media piece. So you can actually put resin pieces inside because it's quite large, look. So we've got some bits and pieces here, maybe a face, maybe some wings, I don't know, there's all sorts of things that I've got in my tubs. As you can see here, I've got loads and loads of bits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of these pieces and I'm going to pull out a few bits and bobs that I think will make a nice kind of mixed media canvas. And then I'll put maybe a little bit of a composition together, and then I'll be back. I kind of like these little cog things. They're quite nice, aren't they? But there's loads of bits and pieces in here. So yeah, let me have a fertle through all this lot and I'll see what I can come up with. And I'll put a little bit of a composition together and then I'll be right back. I like the stars. Definitely like that face though. Okay, so I've gone through all the bits and pieces, found some nice stars, some cogs, some wings. I'm definitely going to use that face. There's a few other little kind of like flourishes in there, so it's going to be sort of a steampunky kind of concoction. So yes, I think that's pretty much going to be sort of the composition that I'm going to create today, I think. Yeah, I think so. Right, so the first thing I want to do is either paint the wood or cover it. So what I thought I would do for a change is actually cover it in a napkin. And I've got this kind of floral napkin that was sent to me in Happy Mail ages and ages and ages ago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the top ply on both of them. I'm saying both of them because I don't think there's enough in just one of them to do the actual canvas. Now there's another ply in there. There's a second one in there. There we go. Easy enough to pull apart. If you can't pull these apart or you can't get to them, the easiest thing to do is to stick a piece of washi tape on either side and then pull them apart. That way it comes apart really, really easy. There we go. I think they're going to be absolutely perfect for using in the background because we can also scrunch them up and get a bit of texture in there as well. So what I need to do is I need to take a photograph of this because this is going to be pretty much the composition that I want to put together. So I'm taking a photograph of it just means I've got something to refer back to if I can't remember where something went a while ago. So let me just do that. Grab my phone. Let's just change that to widescreen, flip it round, and then I can take a picture like so. Zoom in a little bit. There we go. So I've now got a picture of the composition, so I can refer back to that later. Okay, so I can now literally just tip all this out because I've got a record of where it all went. Okay, so I did say I had 2 of these. That's the other one. That was the original one I showed you. I think actually that one exactly the same size. Yeah, I think one of them is just slightly bigger than the other, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, we had a lot of prawns at Christmas. Right, so I'll just push all my little bits to one side. I've got a big tub of, this says gloss Mod Podge. It doesn't really matter at this stage, because I am going to paint over everything. I don't normally like to use gloss, but I've got it. I bought it, and it was the wrong one. Yeah, I didn't read the box I didn't read it properly. I know. I'm an idiot like that. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give the sides a quick going over. Now I know this is wood, so right, so I'm going to start feeding it in from the side. It doesn't really make any difference which way around it goes, does it? So this is going to take a little bit of time. And if some of it tears while it's going in, it doesn't matter. As long as I've got enough to kind of go around the inside. And it is thin enough that you can just poke in and it will go into position. Like I said, it doesn't matter if it rips or tears. And it really doesn't matter. Ew. If it ruttles up. Bit of a messy process. I just need to let it soak through and then just feed it down. There we go. So this is going to take a little bit of time to do, a little bit of fertling, a little bit of persuasion. So what I'll do is I'll pop this on fast forward with a little bit of light music. And then you can watch me struggling with the napkin for the next few minutes. Okay, so I've pretty much got most of it covered, not the outsides, not yet. So what I want to do is I want to just give that a little bit of help just to dry it off, just so I can kind of remove the excess, then I know what I'm dealing with. Okay, so some of that obviously is now dry, so it's probably dry enough. There's still some wet patches in the corners, which is fine. Just go grab my scalpel a second. See, it was there a second ago. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just quickly kind of go around edge. As I said, I'm only really using this for texture. I mean, I could have used texture paste. Could have used kitchen roll, could have used fabric, muslin, cheesecloth, anything like that, burlap, anything to create a bit of texture, which, you know, just adds a bit more kind of interest into the background. Like I said, this will get painted anyway, so I'm not being particularly too careful and exact at the moment. And my watchwords for 2023, as I've said before, is to embrace the imperfect, embrace the imperfection. So I'm not particularly fussed too much if things don't turn out, you know, perfect. Okay, so we've still got a little bit of glue down there. That's okay, I'm going to give it another coat. And maybe just add a few other little bits around the edges, just because. But like I said, it's going to get painted anyway, so it doesn't really make that much difference. It's just me. Just personal preference when all said and done. That's it, just push it down into the corner. So a lot of this is actually dry, but it's not gone completely clear, which sometimes happens with Mod Podge. And even when you buy the Mod Podge one that says matte, it ain't, it's more of a satin. The only one that is truly matte is the one that says it's for paper. And here in the UK, it's pretty difficult to get hold of, which is why I don't use as much of it as I used to do. When I first started doing mixed media work, I used to use the Mod Podge paper. It's on with the blue label. I used to use it all the time because it was easy to get hold of. That, and I think it's the I can't remember how it's pronounced now. Decoupage, P-A-U-G-E. I can't remember who makes it. Yeah, Aileen. Was it Aileen's? Somebody's name anyway. Again, which you used to be able to get really easy, but now it's like rocking horse doodah. It's like an eclipse. You don't see it very often. Okay, that's pretty much dry now. Still warm, but pretty much dry. Let me explain my rationale, my thinking behind this, right? So you may be thinking to yourself, why didn't I just paint it? Well, I could have just painted it, but then it would have just been a piece of painted wood. You may be thinking to yourself, if I wanted to seal the wood, why didn't I just paint the Mod Podge directly onto the wood? Well, I could do that as well. But then you'd still kind of see the wood underneath, and you'd still possibly run that risk of the gesso that I'm going to add in the paint kind of lifting the wood a little bit, seeping in, so it's not sealed, and I wanted to seal it. So I could have just sealed it with the Mod Podge and have done with it. But it's not as interesting as adding a piece underneath to give you a little bit more texture. And I always say that underlayers are like underwear. You don't often see it. You don't necessarily, people looking at it can't see it, but you know it's there. You know what I mean? It's like a foundation. So that's kind of like my rationale anyway. It may be irrational, but it's still just the way that I like to think about it. Anyway, so that's pretty much done. It's all shiny, it's all lovely, but it's not going to stay that way. So, white gesso. I'm going to use white gesso rather than black, because my colour palette that I want to use for this canvas is not going to be black and then metallic over the top. It's going to be other colours. So now the job that I've got is to paint it all. So what I'm going to be doing now is revealing the texture underneath that the paper, the tissue paper, which has been glued down, has given us. I don't know whether it's too bright. My lights might be a bit too bright, and obviously the gesso is white, so it's reflective, but you might not be able to actually see the texture it's giving quite so easy. The method in my madness makes sense to me, and as I've said many times over the years, you know, it only has to make sense to me, because this is my project and I can't do anything other than do it my way. So, because if I did it somebody else's way, it's not mine then, is it? I'm just trying to replicate what somebody else has done. And again, you know, there is really no right, there is no wrong, really. There are things that don't work, you know, products that don't work well together, but there is no kind of wrong as far as composition and the way that you put something together. There are, you know, there's one way, there's another way, there's about 100 different ways of doing the same kind of thing. As that old saying says about skinning cats. But why anybody would want to skin a cat, I've got no idea. Poor things. So that second coat of gesso has now dried, but you can, like I said, you can still see that texture from the napkin. There we go. So it's time to start adding in or sticking down some of my composition pieces now. So this keyframe, so this one is I think from a Finnabar mould. So this is like the basic, the bottom layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and build it up by layer. So let me just grab my photograph again. Just turn it around so I can see it. There we go. I should really put it on my tripod so I can see. So that's going to go there. So the basic, I'm going to have a couple of those fairly round, largish cogs going up into that corner. I think that was like so. And then these two kind of flourishes coming from the bottom about there. I think that was. I'm trying not to get my head in shot. So I think that's kind of like the base or basic base layer to start off with. So what I can do is I'll leave those two there because that helps with the positioning. This is broken, which is why it never got used in the first place. It's actually snapped there. Bit of a weak point in the design, or in the mould that I've got anyway, because the mould that I got it's actually not level, so you don't actually get a proper cast from this mould. It's obviously a faulty one, but you know, can't expect miracles. Alright, so drop it down, and then I'll just try and, there we go. Don't worry about your strings, we can get rid of those at a later date, and then I can start to just stick down these other items. A little bit of a splodge there, and I'm using the hot glue gun for one reason only: speed. If I used like thick gel medium, it would not dry properly, and you'd see things moving around on the composition as I'm adding colour and that kind of thing, and that just gets on my nerves when people do that. Oh, look at that. Just missed my finger. I need another stick. So drop that into that corner there. So I did have one. What do I do with it? There it is. Another glue stick. It just wants a little push through. And then we can do this one. Just gentle. Come on. It's always a problem when it gets to that kind of end point. There we go. Alright, so that's that basic layer. We can also just add in a few of our smaller ones. Just need to push that through a little. There we go. That should work now. So some of the smaller items that I want to glue into place, like up there, just bits, infill bits. Just little infill bits. I'm a bit hoarse this morning. I've not had much coffee. That's not going in. Why aren't you going in? Problems with the glue stick. Hang on. As that grips now, it keeps dropping out. Technology failures. All good stuff. Alright, so there's enough on there. Right, let me just sort out this this glue stick, because it's starting to get on my nerves. And then I'll be back. Okay, finally got it working again. So I'll just stick a little bit on there, right in the middle. Well, purely by coincidence, I've got it the 12 facing upwards. Excellent. Right, and then I can stick that just on top of there. Now, the only reason I'm doing that now is so I've got the right position. I can see where the right position is, and I think, judging by the photograph, there's only a couple of other smaller bits that I want to stick just in here, I think. Yeah, I think that's about right. As the base layer, so that's just the first layer. So let me just dab a little glue on those. This glue gun is one of those really, really hot ones, and it does hurt if you get your finger caught in it, as the lovely Ian can tell you, because he gave himself a real nasty, nasty blister because he touched it. Because he's daft like that sometimes. As are we all. We're all guilty of touching wet paint at some point. I've just stuck my finger to the napkin now. There we go. I love using hot glue guns, but they are a bit of a trauma sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to turn hot glue gun off just for now. That was the reason why it wasn't working earlier, because it had melted funny. Right, so they're already stuck. So what we can do with those now is we can give those a coat or base coat of gesso. So that's what I'm going to do next. So let's just dish out that gesso again. I did say there was going to be a lot of gesso on this. Okay, so that's had its first coat of gesso and it is now dry, because I've just quickly run the heat gun over the top of it. So one of the things that you may have seen me doing while watching that fast forward piece is turning the canvas round and looking at it. If you turn your canvas round while you're doing it, you can see where you've missed the gesso. If you're just looking at it from one point of view, you'll never really see if you've missed any around the back. So always pick your canvas up or your project up and go around. I can see bits in there now that I've missed. So if you look at it from all angles, you'll be able to see where you haven't actually got it covered. So you can go back on your second go and target those areas so that you know that they've at least had one good coat of gesso. So I'm going to have a second coat and then I'll be right back. So the second coat is now dry, so I'm now able to start adding in my other pieces. So first of all, I'm going to get the wings stuck in. So I'm going to bring those down. Just wanted to have a look at the composition on my phone just to make sure I'm getting them in the right place. So they're showing as being stuck way out there, and then the head sits in between like that, maybe a little bit higher. I think that's about right, although maybe I might want to bring them just in a little bit further so that they're actually touching there, and I can lay that just about on top. I think that's probably, I think higher up as well, actually underneath that cog. That's more like it, because that then gives me room. So perhaps that one wants to go in first, because that's then going to provide us with a spacer. Okay, so that's going to cover up that. Okay, so that's that in there. So according to the picture, yep, slightly different. Ooh. But that's okay, we can wing it. Change our mind, adapt on the fly. And that can go in the middle. Again, like I said, don't worry too much about strings. And then we put a little screw head right in the middle of that cog. Careful not to burn fingers. Slowly, slowly. There we go. Right, so now we've got that in, I can actually see where the wings want to touch. Like so. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, I think that's about there, that's about right. So let's get some on the back of this doll head. So I'm leaving the wings in place just so I can get that right kind of position. There we go. So that cog there is acting like, almost acting like a halo. I think I'm going to need something to go underneath there. There's it's rocking a little bit. That's better. Okay, so this is what I mean about do it on the hoof, on the fly. So let's bring a cog in there like that. Probably not going to see it, but that's fine. I'm happy with that. Alright, so I'll put, so it needs to be about there. I'll put a fair whack of the glue because it's bound to catch. That's it. I'll do the same at that side, so I'll find something just to go underneath. There we go, just another small cog will do. And if I stick that there, that's going to then create that stability for that piece there. I'm trying just to even the wings out so that they're pretty much in the same place, but I think that's alright. So just need to add a tiny blob of glue there. That'll do. Like I said, don't worry about the strings. Right, and then we can do the same thing. There you go, you can't even see it, look. That's just perfect. Perfect! Right, so we'll run the glue from the bottom again, and then we'll do it right the way up to the top. Flip it over and then drop it down. I think that's pretty much in the same place, isn't it? That's touching there, that's touching there, those two tips are touching there, and that's about the same distance. Lovely jubbly. Right, let's grab the heat gun and then we can get rid of those strings. Okay, so that's done, dried, cooled down. I have added this star on top of it now. I did have to build up a few layers, I don't know whether you can just see, just so that it was actually level and in place. It's still not 100% cooled down yet, but it's cooled down enough for me to add my next layer of gesso, which I'm going to do now. So first coat done and dried, so now I'm going to nip back and do coat number 2. So I'll do this and then I'll be back because you don't really want to see me do the same thing again, do you? No, didn't think so. Okay, I'll see you in a little while. So it's time to add the last few pieces now. So what I want to do is just add another cog up here and another one just down there, and then I've got a few kind of largish of those nuts. Actually, where's that one going to go? So I'll put that one up there as well, just to kind of keep the balance. And then there's a key that I wanted to just add in about there, but what I might do is I might drop it So it's in there like that. And then there's a little heart that I think I might just add there. And I think we're done with the other bits. I don't think we need anything else. So I think just those last few items to go on, and then I'm happy with the composition. I'm not going over the top. I'm not going to throw stuff at it just for the sake of throwing stuff at it. So, alright, so let's just grab a little bit of glue there, a little glue there, a little glue there. And that should hold in position for there. Just create that joining piece there. And then if I just add a tad there and a tad there, that should sit nicely there. That can go. Let's stick it there. And then the final piece, I think, is going to be that key. Right. Try not to catch my fingers with the glue. There. That's it. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that at the moment. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna add it for adding's sake. Right, okay, I'm gonna let that cool down. Finish off adding the gesso to those few layers that are left. I didn't stick that one down, did I? Oh, those two. Oh, good grief. Thank you for those that were shouting at the screen. There. You don't think I can hear you, but I can. Yeah, and you. Cool. Okay. Right, as I was saying, I'll let those cool down, give them all the coats of gesso, and then I'll be right back. I'll also have a bit of a tidy up in the meantime. Everything's now dry, so it's all had its first, second coat, so now it's time to start adding some colour. So I've got my big pot of indigo blue translucent paint. So these are 5 of the most recent translucent releases. So these are the colours that I picked and I requested from Indigo Blue, which was burnt sienna, red oxide, yellow ochre, terra vert, and viridian blue. There was a 6th colour, which was the Roman purple, but I'm not using that today. So what I'm going to do to start off with then is I'm going to get the burnt sienna, take a smallish brush, a little bit of water, and I'm going to start adding in some of that colour just into the background. And what this is going to do is it's going to give me a little bit of a background base colour and pick out a lot of the detail. So a lot of the detail around the back of that frame. See there, but it's not going to just stay like this. I will be adding more water in a little while. I'm just using a small brush and a little bit of water just to get it in to all those kind of little nooks and crannies in the background. Okay, so just grab some water, and now I can start just to kind of maneuver it around in that background. You can see now how it's started to pull out that detail, so I can see where there is and where there isn't. So I want them around there, more around there. Let's get some more around that cog, maybe just in that background, in the corner. This won't be the last time we'll be using the brown either. I'll be using this quite a bit. And then we'll just get some up here. This is where we start picking out the detail. So what that does is it allows the colour to diffuse and to settle and get into all those kind of little nooks and crannies. And you see how it's doing it on the wings there. So if we just give the wings a quick scrub over, you see how it's falling into all the detail. Just like that. And if I do that on a face, get a bit more colour, a bit more water, and I just start dabbing and then if I spritz with water, let's get some up there as well. That's looking far too clean up there. You see how it just all starts to run down and then just collect in those areas in that darkness. So all the little nooks and crannies. So this is a way you can quickly age a piece if you wanted to. Some people like to do this black or this brown kind of coat towards the end. I like to give it a quick once over before we start. That way I can see where I need to add a little bit more colour. Right, let's get that dried off a little bit. Okay, so that's the majority of that burnt sienna kind of added into the background. So I'm now going to start adding in some of the other colours now. So I'm going to start adding in some of that yellow ochre. So again, I'm going to grab some on a brush and I'm going to start adding in a lot of that colour into the background. grab it from the lid. Just work some of that colour in, and then we'll start spritzing. Start loosening it up, getting it running. I don't mind if it mixes in with some of those darker colours that we've already got in there. So that's loosened it up a little bit more. Let's get some more water in. Let it run backwards and forwards. And then if I think there's getting a bit too much water in the tray, I'm just going to tip it into the corner, and then I can just soak it up. And we're going to do a gradual process of adding colour and then drying. So it's almost at the point where it's completely dry, but still a little bit damp, and then we're going to add a bit more. Okay, now the red. Oh. Right, I'm going to put a lot of this red It is literally going to look like a dog's dinner for quite some time. It's always going to go through an ugly phase. Okay, so that's had a chance to dry a bit now. We can see all the water's disappeared. You can see how all the colour has started to fall into all those kind of nooks and crannies. So I've decided that it's not concentrated enough, so I'm going to start adding some more colour now. So this is the Terra Verde now. So I'm going to start adding some of this with a different brush. There we go. That's more like it. So let's start getting some of that colour into the background. Now I appreciate that when you add green and red, you're going to start getting mud. But that's okay, because we can go back later and add some more of that concentrated colour over the top. So as with most kind of mixed media techniques, you can always go back and add colour, cover it over and start again if you want to. If you don't like the end result, that is, of course. So of course this is a heritage kind of palette, so it is going to be, it's not going to be kind of like neon coloured, it's going to be a muted kind of heritagey kind of feel to it, which, you know, it's pretty much what we want really. Well, that's what I want anyway. That's it. That's more like it. Right, so I've just dried that green colour, so let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see a bit better. There we go. So as you can see, we're getting some real kind of muted, kind of darkish tones with those colours now. So I want to carry on with that and add a bit more of that yellow back in again. So I'm going to come back in with the yellow ochre. Grab some of the yellow ochre, just add a bit of water. Get it nice and mixed. And then I'm going to start coming in into some of these areas down here, maybe up there. And the thing with these is that if you don't like the colour once it's done, if it's not doing what you want, then just wait for it to dry and then just go back over again with another coat that's loose because I've just had the heat gun on it and it's not set again yet. Yeah, if it's not doing what you want, if it's not giving you what you want out of the colour, then don't be afraid to just go back and cover it over with gesso and start again. If this doesn't go the way that I want it to, then believe me, I will be doing this. I will be changing it. I will be saying, right, so I'm going to go just around the hair and the head with that yellow. Particularly make sure I get some colour in the eyes and around the mouth. Because sometimes when we do projects like this, we get so used to rich, vibrant colours that when we start working with subtle colours and pastels, it feels like we're not giving it our all, if you know what I mean. Right, let's get that dried off again. It's all about the layers, boys and girls, it's all about the layers. Okay, so that's pretty much sort of dry. There's still some little water bits in the bottom, but as I've just been saying, as you could probably tell, as I'm adding the colour, it's not giving me what I want, and yes, the star has fallen off. I need to just re-glue that back on again. With me having the heat gun on it, it's reactivated the glue, which sometimes happens. But it just means that I just need to add some glue back on again just for it to stick on. But I'm having one of those times when the colour that's in there is not strong enough for me, and yes, I do feel cheated, so I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to go back in with this red oxide on the wings. I'm going to just try and get more concentrated colour before the dogs wake up. They're both fast asleep at the moment, so I'm getting a bit peace and quiet. Obviously Ian's out. at work, so flip that around. So traditionally red oxide was used as a ground, but also as a base for adding gilding. So if you look at kind of like old mirrors or objects that had been gilded with gold leaf, and it's all aged and cracked and some of the leaf has rubbed off, you'll probably find that there's like a red colour underneath. That's what the red oxide was. So the red is a beautiful base for adding gold onto the top. Okay, so I'm just working the paint into all the detail on the wings. There we go. So we've got some real kind of concentrated colour now. So I'm also going to add, I think, around the cog halo. Don't mind if I get a little bit on the actual face itself, it's not a problem. So add a little bit more red colour around there. Definitely want some more on this bit here. Let's add some down here. So again, it's one of those days when we change our minds halfway through a project. If it's not working for you, like I said, change it up. Right, once that's dry, that ain't going anywhere. So let's just give it a quick just to kind of get it to move a little bit. There we go. That's more like it. Are we hot yet with the glue gun? Yep, I think so. Right, so let's grab that again. Put a big blob on the back. And then I'll drop that back in place. So that shouldn't move now. So again, drying time, and then I'll be back. In the meantime, hopefully I won't have changed my mind again. Okay, so I've added the red, and I hate it even more now. So, radical change. Total radical change. I'm not going to use the red. I'm going to go back to the green. So, yeah, this is where we change it all up. So, green. And I'm going to do everything. It's still warm. Hopefully it won't fall off again this time. So hopefully the red will have given it a little bit of a base coat. Bit of a kind of primer thing. I'm going to stay away from that for the minute. Perhaps I should have actually let it all cool down first. But I'm just a wee tad impatient. I've spent far too long on this today as it is. But I will not be bested. Yep, I did say I was going to stay away from that, didn't I? Right, I'll carry on adding this green layer all over, and then I'll join with you again in a little while. But needless to say, I'm not happy. Okay, so everything's had at least one coat all the way of green. I've even gone around the insides of the crate now, so I'm looking at it now thinking, well, all it reminds me of now is some kind of, it looks almost like military green. So I just keep getting the impression that it's straight off the set of MASH. So, you know, we all have good days and we all have bad days. Obviously, it's not working for me today. This is okay. It's not brilliant. So I'm going to just kind of, it always looks better when you kind of consolidate everything into one colour. So it was horrible before because there was too many colours. It just wasn't working. And I'm the first to admit when something isn't working. And I never try and hide my failures from you at all. So, but I am going to try and at least salvage this today. So I just need to let it cool down because it's absolutely red hot at the moment because I've had the heat gun on it. And then I'll come back and we'll try and lift it a little bit. So back in a second. Go on, the pair of you, clear off. The dogs have come in to see what I'm doing. Eh? Go on, off you go. Come on. I don't know, strange dogs. Right, okay, so green. Green, gold. Let's try and see if we can salvage this. So I've got gold luster wax. Let's see if we can start bringing it to life. Can't go wrong with a bit of gold, can you? So all I'm doing is just dragging the brush across the top. So let's just very carefully get rid of that loose hair. Just across the front of the girl. Just very gently. There we go. Surprising what it looks like just when you add a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of shine. So even on those wings, look, they just come to life. So this brush is kind of large, so I'm going to come back in with a smaller, softer brush to try and get into some of those more delicate areas. There we go. So just pick a little bit up and just gently brush. There we go. I'm just trying to catch the raised areas. I'm not trying to cover everything because that way you won't get any contrast. So just gently go in and catch the tops. And it's just a gentle process. So, although my initial canvas looked nothing like what it does now, I'd still class this as a failure because it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to do, but at least it turned into something. And not all was lost. Let's see if we can try and pick up some of the detail in that. And again, with this stuff, you can pretty much just keep on going until you're happy with the end result. A bit more on there. And if you see somewhere that should really have a bit of gilding, go beginning at it. And as long as you don't go in too heavy-handed, you know, you'll be pretty much okay. But I think you can't go wrong if you start to go wrong. But you can't go wrong if you just unify all the colour and then start again. So I'm just going to go around the edge now, just giving it that little bit of a gold frame. Just gently picking out the texture with that smaller brush. And then when this is done, I will leave it for 20 minutes or so. Then I'll come back with a cloth and I'll just give it a light buff, because it is wax when all's said and done. So you'll probably get a better shine once it's had a chance just to dry. So all that texture is coming out now. So there we have it, I think. So I'll take some pictures and I'll put them up at the end so you can see what it looks like once it's all dry, once it's all been buffed, and then you can make up your own mind, I think. So success or failure, you let me know. So that's all from me for now. If you've enjoyed watching me create this canvas or not, give it a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. And don't forget, you can access your exclusive angel-only content over on my website. There's a link in the description area below. Thank you.